Madam Chairman, thank you for holding this hearing. Seems like you and I have been talking about plans a lot lately. And I want to really thank the members. The level of participation in this hearing outstrips anything we've seen, and I'm appreciative for that. It's time that we hold the FDA accountable. There are millions of families that care for babies with the help of a formula. Babies with special needs, dietary restrictions, adopted families and foster families, orphan families, children with mothers who are immune compromised or on life-saving treatments, women who can't breastfeed, and some cancer survivors. I want to share a story with my colleagues about one of those millions of Americans. A young woman called my office last week after weeks of desperate searches to find a specific formula for her young child with special dietary needs. She cares for and protects her baby with fierce love and devotion and had done her research on the formula shortage. When she called my office to demand accountability from her government, she was confused that the White House seemed to be blaming the formula manufacturer. Abbott began flying formula to the United States from overseas in February. 11 million pounds since February, 50 flights a week, 6 to 8 flights a day, 132,000 cans to 12 different airports across the country. There's something we haven't heard. Abbott knew there was a shortage problem, but FDA seemed not to. Abbott's been very transparent about what problems they faced and what they're doing to fix the problems. Their CEO even published an op-ed apologizing for their part in this crisis. This month, CDC closed its investigation into the infection of 4 children, finding no direct link to the manufacturer's facility, but the FDA only just now began to use tools to increase the supply of formula. And FDA still hasn't authorized the Abbott lab to resume manufacturing, even though CDC determined the original contamination did not come from Abbott's Sturgis plant. The question I could not answer for my constituent is what took FDA so long? Why wasn't action taken when the warning signs of this crisis started last fall? She asked if we knew what the FDA stands for. Before we could reply, she said, "Formula doesn't arrive." Formula doesn't arrive. FDA. My friends, the FDA failed to do its job, plain and simple. This isn't a story about funding. Congress provides over $1 billion for the Food Center alone every year. This Congress even gave them an additional $700 million in COVID money. $436 million of it is still available. The House passed a bill to give an additional $28 million to the FDA. Ladies and gentlemen, that's called political cover. This money's a stunt, so people could go home and say they did something. That's dishonest at best and blatantly irresponsible at worst. The American people know better whose fault it is here. This isn't a story about authority. The Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act authorities are clear. The flexibility you have is real. No, this is a story, a sad story, about FDA's unwillingness and inability to do their job. During the pandemic, the FDA apparently stopped its safety inspections. That seems like a bad decision. And when the FDA finally resumed inspections, they failed to act with speed. Dr. Califf, you were confirmed in February when the nationwide formula shortage was at 26%. There was a problem. You and your agency failed to solve it. I challenged you at your confirmation hearing to learn lessons from the pandemic. The FDA did a great job for 18 months. But what I cautioned against is already happening. FDA is slipping back into its bureaucratic bad old ways. The FDA gets $6 billion from Congress each year, over 18,000 staff. Yet you fail to prioritize the things that matter. For the past 2 years, the Food Center ignored formula crisis until it became a political liability. Instead, the center focused on reducing salt in food, what kinds of salad dressing we can call French dressing, and the ingredients that can be used in yogurt. You had time to decide what color additives can be added to make farm salmon look more pink and work on consumer acceptance of grated Parmesan cheese. Infants, babies, and toddlers are starving, and parents are facing the reality that they can't feed their children in the United States of America. And your food center is more interested in policy marketing claims about cheese than ensuring American families have formula to feed their babies. When you finally took steps, the formula shortage had reached an alarming 43%. The FDA has imperiled the health and safety of American families. You've created shortage and crisis. You've created panic and fear. Yesterday, in testimony to the House, you tried to shift the blame. The mailroom didn't deliver a whistleblower complaint. It's your mailroom. And FDA knew there was a problem even before the whistleblower sent the letter, strike one. Yesterday, you said you were new, but the president hired you and the Senate confirmed you because you'd been there before. And your center director has been there for almost a decade, strike two. Yesterday, you said the FDA could have done a better job. That's painfully obvious, but where's the accountability? Maybe that's strike three. By the time Abbott resumes production, after finally getting approval from your agency, which it still doesn't have, it'll take 2 months for their production to go back to capacity. That will be a success for the private sector. That you are acting only now under pressure from outraged parents around the country and from Congress deserves some serious searching. When I begin my round of questions, I expect that you'll answer my first questions in your opening statement. What did you know? When did you know it? Why did you fail to act for so long? The Abbott CEO apologized for their mistakes. I wonder if the FDA will apologize for their mistakes. I thank the chair for her leadership on this issue. I thank her for her shared moral outrage at the failures of FDA, and I thank her for getting the current FDA commissioner to appear so quickly before the committee. I yield back.